West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show
Today
on
in the
News
Mile
Talk
High
710
City on
KNUS.
Monday, September 15th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe. Phone lines jam-packed. Text messages jam-packed. You all are amazing. Let's continue the conversation. This is where the debate takes place. I'm raising this question. Last night, Tom Tancredo, at a vigil I was at for Charlie Kirk, made the argument that we have a serious problem. And that problem is we have wildly competing different views of what this nation should be. He believes, and I think he's right, one side is far more prone to violence than the other. They're willing to burn down cities if they don't get their way. They're willing to assault people like me, kill conservatives like Charlie Kirk. How do you live with people like that? Elon Musk pointing out when a guy had posted that all members of the far right have a target on their back now and deserve to die, one down, millions to go. Elon Musk saying we must fight back or be murdered. How do we live together? What are our common our strands, our foundation that holds us together? And is it Trump's job to not call for unity, but to root out and use the power of the FBI to go after people like this that are calling for violence, that want to harm their opponents? Or is this authoritarianism in action? Let's go to Ben in Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, Jeff, the facts are that one side is way more violent, and it is the right, and the stats do show that. There's numerous reports on this, that they are responsible for more domestic terrorism than any other group,
And what kind?
it's not close.
Give me some examples.
Dylan Roof, for example, shooting up a black church where there was 9 people. White supremacy
You would
views,
put him
neo-Nazi
in
views.
so you would put neo-Nazis in the conservative category?
Yes, that's far-right extremism.
So, Ben, why was the Republican Party founded?
We're not going to get into that dumb argument because the modern-day Republican Party is nothing what the existing one
Why don't you
was
just answer
back
the
150
question?
years ago.
Why was the Republican Party
It was founded by Republicans back in the
to
1850s.
combat slavery?
But
which
then we had the Southern
party
strat-
supported the Colorado Civil Rights Act larger than the other party at a higher percentage?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Republicans.
But yeah, but that's not the modern day Republican Party of today. They after the Southern strategy, all that shifted, and a lot of the people that were Dixiecrats and those people are now proud, Republicans. So if you look at where the South was in 1940, it looks totally different than what it looks like now. So that's kind of a moot point.
I don't think so. I think the Republican Party and most conservatives would be happy to denounce Nazism.
Well, Jeff, here's the actual facts. Is if you look at, there's a report done by the GAO and Department of Homeland Security, and this was done from post 9/11 through 2017, and Republicans, or not Republicans, but far-right extremists committed 3 times more terrorist activity than any other group. The second largest was Islamic extremists. So the left were a blip. You're looking at like Earth Liberation Front and these small little organizations.
Wow.
There's another one by Earth Liberation Front.
No, I don't think the left's violence is a blip. How about all the rioting that took place around George Floyd? Would you consider that progressive violence?
Yes, but it's a little bit.
And that was a blip?
A little bit. I think a lot of that was opportunistic by people that were not really necessarily
was that a
there
blip?
for. No, it wasn't. But yeah, there's another study here by Center for Strategic and International Studies They have 900 terrorist incidents that were done from 1994 up through 2000.
Yeah.
In that study, 16 years out of the 24 that they have on record, Republicans, or not Republicans, but far-right extremists, terrorism
right.
far-right extremist terrorism is responsible for 16 out of the 27 years that they have on record.
Do you think the government is right in pursuing, prosecuting, and trying to break up groups of far-right extremists?
It kind of depends on the actions, what they're doing, because I don't want to go after free speech.
Sure, I agree with
there's
that.
There's groups like the ACLU that do.
But if they're calling for violence, if they want to organize violence, do you think that the government is right to go after them?
I think so, depending on. That's a tough one. It depends on how far they're going. If there's been any actions that have taken place.
So you wouldn't necessarily blame Donald Trump for wanting to do the same thing to the radical left.
Well, you got to provide some some documentation on what they're doing. Are they organizing?
They're burning cities? They took over parts of Seattle, right? If they're shooting conservatives, then we should probably try to go after them.
Well, can we go after the Bundy family? And if they're calling for
violence, if they're creating lists of who's next, we should probably go after them.
Can we go after the Bundy family then that, took over the park station in Oregon and, just weren't paying their taxes for being far-right extremists? Is that a group we should go in and arrest all of them and break them up? And remember them, Clive?
Kind of, but I'm not super familiar with it. But yeah, I mean, if to your point though, if there are threats to our safety, far right, far left, the government has probably the right motivations to try to stop them. That's what Yoram Hazony is arguing. That's what Donald Trump, that's what Elon Musk is saying. But Ben, I appreciate the time. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Morning, Monday, 57 and sunny outside in Denver. Expecting a high of 83 today. Going to be a beautiful day. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
And what we learned was there was evidence, DNA evidence that could be collected and had been collected, including a screwdriver that was found on the rooftop.
FBI Director Kash Patel this morning, he'll face Congress tomorrow on the handling of the Charlie Kirk case.
Also, we went over to the scene in the wooded area where the firearm was discarded, and the firearm had a towel wrapped around it. It's important. I'll get back to that later. I even walked into the wooded area in the ravine, so I knew from my investigative experience what I could bring to the table and what decisions I needed to make. And having the support of President Trump and the full support of the White House was what we needed for these resources to happen. And I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
And DJT talking to the press on Sunday about those on the left, like Kirk's assassin from Utah who hated traditional values and was in a relationship with a transgender man who is cooperating with investigators. However, the suspect, the assassin, is not cooperating with investigators at all and, quote, is deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology, end of quote, said the governor of Utah. Here's DJT.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right.
A Loveland family says vandals set fire to a backyard fence and smashed an SUV window while targeting their memorial for Charlie. There were 5 children asleep inside the home when it happened over the weekend, raising fears for their safety. Friends and neighbors have rallied around the family as they repainted and repaired the damaged display. Don Lemon, he has his hand on this lady's shoulder. He really wants to talk to her. He pulls her back and tries to talk to her. And the problem is he met a believer here, and she has God in her life and her heart.
What do you think would happen to Charlie Kirk?
It's just messed up, totally messed up. You know that was messed up. Like, nobody deserved that. He definitely didn't deserve that. He was a good guy.
You think he was a good guy?
I think he was.
You
Only
think?
Kirk
Good morals.
Captain Kirk.
The what?
The only Kirk you recognize is Captain Kirk. I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't know who
You
that
don't
is.
know who it is?
I don't know who that is.
I know who it was. Like,
I only know about him when
all of us have flaws. I can't really tell you what to believe in or how to feel. Like, everybody's having a human experience. Like, why knock him for having this human experience or what he believe in?
Even though even though he says things that are anti-women, black, all that.
I can't judge him for that.
You can't.
I can't judge him for that. But I can use judgment. He didn't deserve that.
Right.
Yeah.
As a human being.
Yeah.
You are very spiritual.
You know, yeah.
No,
I
you
can't
sound
go
like,
left. I can't go left with that.
No, you sound like, you mean left, going
Yeah,
left,
like,
not left.
because I'm
right.
humanity.
Yeah.
I'm humanity and love first.
No, I love that. So the first person I spoke to here didn't want to be on camera, and he said, I can't judge him because I'm not God. And so let him, whatever the reaction is, if the government wants to give him a state-like funeral, if they let him do it because God is the only judge. And
Yeah, like, nobody really can judge him.
Yeah.
And, like, I kind of, like, seen him before all of this happened, but I don't see whatever everybody else was seeing. So,
Yeah, the stuff that Don Lemon was pushing. Imagine that, Don. A little God in your life. VPJD will host the Charlie Kirk Show immediately following the Jeff and Bill Show here on KNUS this morning. Wall Street opening higher as investors brace for the Federal Reserve meeting this week. Stocks edged higher after this news. DJT on Truth this morning says that the big trade meeting in Europe between the U.S. and China has gone very well. A deal was reached on a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save. That's what DJT says. He says the young people will be very happy. It's all about TikTok, and the president says he'll be talking to President Xi on Friday. Let's see here. Democratic Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia of Illinois calling for all video to be released on a deadly shooting that involved an ICE officer in West Suburban Franklin Park on Friday. He's calling the shooting totally preventable and tragic and says the public should know everything that happened. Federal authorities say agents were conducting a traffic stop when the suspect struck an officer with his vehicle. The illegal immigrant was shot and killed, and the officer suffered severe injuries. Week 2 of the NFL, Broncos in Indianapolis, and Denver really needed this field goal to go up 5 late in the game.
32-yarder. He had a great pregame warm-up, and to this end was hitting 60, 63, 61. This is 42. The upright. No good. Colts have held. They get the ball.
So it was 28-26 at that time. The Colts were forced to kick a 60-yarder, but they had a penalty, a leverage penalty, trying to climb up on guys to try to block the field goal. Can't do that. So they win it with a 45-yarder, 29-28. Colts beat the Broncos. Head coach Sean Payton.
We had a number of opportunities to not be in that position late, and unfortunately, we shot ourselves in the foot too many times.
Good news for the Broncos. Eagles beat the Chiefs. Chargers and the Raiders tonight. And Mark and John excited. The Lions beat the Chicago Bears. They're back in the win column. And over the weekend, CU loses to Houston. Air Force falls to Utah State. Utah beats Wyoming, and Northern Colorado almost pulls off an upset at South Dakota, but they lose in overtime. CSU was off. 53 in Boulder, 55 in Centennial, 57 in Denver. It is Akari Olson's 15th birthday today. Happy birthday to Akari, my youngest. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS Denver forecast this early Monday. Just a few passing clouds this morning. Temperatures in the low 50s by daybreak. For the rest of your Monday, looking terrific with sunshine, highs in the low 80s. Mostly clear tonight, lows down to 55. Mostly sunny with showers in the afternoon on Tuesday, highs near 80. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
I want to reset here real quick. This video is making the rounds. And I'm going to get to Joe. I'm going to get to Dwayne. You guys are up next. We do have one open line. If you want to join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. This video is making the rounds. It's a mom filming her two daughters. And according to a source of mine, this comes from Colorado. And she's trying to surprise them about the news of the engagement between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And she asked them, essentially, one of the best things that happened today, what do you think it is? And the kids go on to list the death of political opponents. Listen to this.
Back. I have the best news ever.
What? Donald Trump died?
Second best news.
The vice president died?
Okay, third best news.
That Elon Musk died?
Okay, no. Nobody died. My best friend's getting married.
Which one is it?
Taylor Swift! Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged!
Back. Okay. The Taylor Swift thing aside, how do you build a nation with somebody like that? Because I think to just dismiss it and go, wow, it's just language, it's just words. We're not talking about the disagreements in policy. We're not talking about the types of conversations Charlie Kirk had. We're talking about a mom teaching her kids to celebrate the death of a political opponent. And when I heard that for the first time, what jumped to my mind was a lot of the education that I heard happening to Palestinians about Jews. Because I've watched those videos where they just defame Jews, and then lo and behold, on October 7th, you get a guy that comes across the border, kills Jews, and calls his parents to celebrate it. I'm not saying that mom is raising up future murderers, but I think dismissing it and going, oh, it's just language, come on, guys, is wrong. And I don't know how you build a nation collectively together where your neighbors are celebrating the death of the politicians you support. And then I go down to these protests and it's signs calling for the death of President Trump. Piñatas that they're going to beat up calling for the death of President Trump. I've seen this at rally after rally after rally. Talk to a lady. You can go watch my videos. We should publicly execute the president in Elon Musk. So at a general level, it feels like we're spinning out of control. And then at a practical level, Donald Trump's like, unity? Unity. No, we're going to go root this out. And Democrats going, wait, hold on, he needs to call for unity. And to Ben's point, and I think this is a fair argument, if we're going to go root out the extreme right, and I hate putting them in that category because I don't think they're conservatives. I don't think they're Republicans. If you're a neo-Nazi, you're not a conservative. Okay? You're an extremist. But if we're going to use the power of the government to go root out some of those people, and this gets back to Yoram Hazony's argument, is that it's almost civilizational suicide to continue to allow the stuff to fester. So is Donald Trump right to go after the extreme left? Those that burn cities, take over parts of Seattle, shoot conservatives, assault conservatives, call for the death of conservatives. Is he right to do that? Give us a call. Join the conversation. Phone lines jam-packed. Text messages jam-packed. Let's go to Joe in Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hi, Jeff, Billy. I want to start with a quote, and I'll attribute this to a YouTube video, but I think it's so apropos. I've sent it out. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence, you murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Martin Luther King, one of my favorite conservative Republicans.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Joe.
Now, Joe, do you think, though, that Donald Trump using the FBI to go root out Antifa is violence?
Absolutely not. Do I think putting to death, executing murderers is violent? No. It's called for in the Bible to execute murderers because we have to move them out of society because they'll kill again, and there's also a witness they give for other people to murder. So now, but I want to address something that we have to call out whether it's the right or the left, and also don't forget there is an element of society promoting it on both sides. In fact, I recommend where I got the quote from Martin Luther and some research on both left and right extreme violence is from a PSYOP expert, Danny Jones. And he has a video called The Tipping Point with Charlie Kirk on it, which explains that there are uber elite, and I'll name one, for example, George Soros, who make a lot of money when the extremes on both sides start murdering each other. So what they do is they promote it on both sides so that they can make extreme great amounts of money. And it's just like in the Bible, it says that there's evil in high places. And I think it is on both sides. But I would say this to Billy. You can't argue that there's not an extreme problem on the far left. If you want to argue that, I recommend you use Bill Clinton's line. It depends on what is the meaning of is.
Joe, I appreciate that, man, and I think you're absolutely right. There is a problem, and here's the thing. Someone I was just talking with offline a little bit, and they were saying that exact same thing, that we don't have a radical left problem. We don't have a radical right problem. We have a radical problem. That the people on either fringes see themselves as so divorced from the mainstream, the only thing they can do is act out. Yeah, and that's
true.
Yeah,
but let me say this though, is that for one, it was made clear in the Bible by the wisest man ever that the heart of the fool lies to the left. and we have to understand something. The left does respond differently in mass. You see, when conservatives respond, and I would argue, by the way, some of the conservatives you thought were conservative really weren't. Like the guy that murdered those people in Minnesota. I'm sorry, but conservatives that evaluate that, we don't think that guy was conservative.
Well, Joe, pause right there. Joe, pause right there. Pause right there, because if that's the declaration that you can make, then you can't hold anybody that is liberal responsible if the Charlie Kirk shooter is proven to be a liberal, for those liberals to say, we don't own him, that's not a real liberal. Because you're doing the same thing.
Billy,
so just make sure that's the same. I just want to make it be consistent. That's it.
It depends on what the definition of is.
Excellent.
Try that, Billy.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're consistent. Continue, Joe. Continue, my friend.
So I would say this. No man can see into another man's heart. So there isn't a paradigm conservative or a paradigm liberal to say, oh, this neo-Nazi is exhibiting hatred of Jews, so I wonder if he's just a Nazi or if he hates Jews because the enemy is governing him, and I mean the devil. But let me just say that there's no perfect conservative, and when you evaluate somebody, you have to look at their overall tenor. Look at this guy. He was living with a transgender female, or male, whatever you call it, and he shot Charlie Kirk during a speech on transgenderism, and he.
But to be fair, he couldn't hear that though. That wasn't necessarily what Charlie was there doing, and he couldn't hear.
No, actually, it was quite loud. It was quite loud.
I don't think we can. I'm not certain that we can discern.
Actually, they're going to come out with that everyone could hear it.
That's fine.
Anyway,
that's okay.
Here's the point I'm making.
Wrong about that.
I would think this guy, being raised in a conservative family, obviously had a lot of conservative traits. For instance, he had a gun that many conservatives have. That he exhibited a lot of characteristics. Look at the shirt he wore. He tried to blend in, but he didn't have to. Too difficult. He had a short haircut. He wore conservative garb. The point is that though if you listen to his family, all his family members say the same thing. He's been moving to the far left. He's been indoctrinated by the left. And I think that's something to pay attention to. When people start getting indoctrination, we have to put our thumb on them. If somebody had said to Dylan Harris and Harris's mother and father, something's going wrong here. They're getting the same magazine that you have, the same book that you on how to murder people, and they're collecting guns, and they're doing all these things. They're exhibiting behavior, extremist behavior. We have to do something.
Yeah, the only thing is, I understand what the family was saying, Joe, but there are some portions where they were saying that he was becoming more politically extreme, and that could be more far-right as well, especially if he gets into the Nick Fuentes, and where I'm bringing it up is the Groper again, because Fuentes' crowd hates Kirk's crowd. And so the hatred directed towards Kirk could come from either fringe radical area, and that's the issue. And for us to stand,
what do you think, Billy? I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, hang on. What I'm worried about is
I'm asking you for a judgment here.
On
what do you think? Do you think this guy was being affected by the far right or the far left?
Okay, from me, and this is the thing, okay? I don't have all the information, and I'm saying from the information that I have been able to read so far, and I'm talking about information that has been provided by law enforcement and other individuals. To me, it seems like there is a slight influence of left, but there's a larger influence of far right. I see more of Nick Fuentes, and part of it being some of the messages.
I think that what you just told us is evidence that the fool's heart leans to the left. Thank you, Billy.
Appreciate you, Joe. Thanks, man. Nice
Joe
job.
from Arvada. Joe's
Well
line
done.
is open,
I like Joe.
303-696-1971. We'll continue. First, I want to talk to you about Dan Kaplis with Dan Kaplis Law, well known in this community for delivering justice for the last 40 years. He helps people who've been hurt in injury cases. Listen to this courtroom record. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. If you've been hurt, this is the right guy to call. Build your team with Dan Caplis, 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Show, guaranteeing you a conversation you won't have anywhere else.
Oh, yeah. Nobody else has got the stones to do this one. Yeah.
We are talking whether or not we can continue as a nation, essentially. 9172 texting in, it doesn't matter what the shooter's political views were. What matters is the reaction to his assassination, and a significant part of the left thinks Charlie Kirk deserved it. That's all you need to know. They're sick. Last night, did 2 vigils. The second one, Tom Tancredo brought up the point that if you're going to have a nation, you have to have common bonds. You have to have common values. You have to share a common view of the history, of where we're going, of what we want this nation to be. And he says we don't have that with the left anymore. In fact, everything's different. The size of the government, who should pay for it, whether or not we're even getting our rights from God, which is in the foundational documents, is debated by the left. So how do you have a common nation anymore? Let's go to the phone lines. Dwayne Divide. Good morning, Dwayne. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning, gentlemen. As we see everything, we need to remember whenever the Democrats say, we're a democracy, we're not. We're a constitutional republic. It needs to be something that needs to be hammered into everyone, because when they hear democracy, they think there's something else that's going on. I can disagree with anyone. I mean, all of us between us have disagreed at points or another, but I've never wanted to sit there and inflict a high-speed item into you guys at any time. I respect you too much and love the fact that we get to have a conversation. Others that are more childlike, more less able to sit there and express a point, or just want to sit there and scream and yell and think that they're important, these are the people that we're not going to be able to reach.
And that's why I don't fault Donald Trump for going unity. And to the point I brought up with Ben from Morrison is I think the left would make the argument that if you're an extreme Nazi, that if you're calling for the death of Jews and black people, the government should step in to stop you. They seem that the use of the FBI and organizations like that to try to avert violence should be used against the extreme right, okay? I think Donald Trump and conservatives are making the argument that that needs to be waged against the extreme left. That if you're out there calling for violence, if you're organizing, not if you disagree with us, nobody cares about that, but if you are getting to a point where you're ready to inflict violence or call for the violence of others, at that point, it becomes the duty of the government to step in and address it, and we just be engaging in civilizational suicide not to. Your thoughts, Dwayne?
Well, don't forget, Nazis was a socialist party.
Correct.
It was not far right. It was far left. And we need to sit there and remind ourselves of that.
They were more on the fascist side of things than on the communist side of things, based on how they set up the government. You know that.
But what was their name?
Authoritarian,
I
understand
that, but I understand their name. But they could call themselves whatever they want.
They didn't. They called themselves socialists.
I know, but that's not how they governed. You can do whatever you want with that, but that's the truth. That's not how they govern. That's not how they set up the government. That's not how they set up the functioning society. But that's why they used it, to cover themselves, so you didn't know what they were doing. It's exactly the reason. It was marketing that was going to distract you, just like when we used to say that cigarettes were all natural and good for you. Yeah. Happens all the time.
I don't think it's fair to say it was used to distract. I think they started out as socialists and got more authoritarian,
they weren't communists,
which is what typically happens with socialists.
That
but
wasn't
go
how they're
ahead,
running either.
Dwayne.
So anyway, they could have called themselves the Fuzzy Puppies and, Harry Kitty's party for all I care. The problem is that when the amount of violence became, and then it became more and more accepted, and then it became the general populace who sat there and said, well, if these guys are doing it, it sounds like a good thing. And you had an entire country that sat there and looked at the atrocities and everything and went, yeah, I guess I can work with that. That's wrong. That's just plain wrong.
It's fair.
I mean,
Dwayne, do you think the critique now coming from places like the Denver Post is that, well, conservatives are engaging in cancel culture now? They're creating lists of people that are out there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Are they engaging in cancel culture, you think?
Well, they're trying to. Krauthammer and others sat there and said that when the culture is taken over by the left, which it had been, we had cancel culture, we had all the different things that went on. Whatever the young man that started the hour off with, saying that we're more right-wing people, over $1 billion in damage over George Floyd. Over $1 billion of damage up in Seattle with all the Summer of Love by the mayor and all the rest. What's going on right now, yes, there's an upheaval, there's a turmoil. What will settle out will be whatever continues the next 50 years of this country.
Yeah, the guy at the beginning of the hour wasn't talking about money. That's where you went with it, is which was more expensive. He was talking about numbers.
He did call it a blip.
I know, and then again, I disagree with that. But when Dwayne analyzes this based on money, that's not the statistics.
No, I'm talking about damage.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But the issue was when the caller called in, he wasn't saying here is the most damaging protests or actions by their party. He was just doing numbers, and now you're adding damage. I'm just saying that is a different measure than numbers. Looking at numerous times. That's it. All I'm saying is it's just a different way of analyzing it. I'm not saying you're wrong, Dwayne. I'm just saying you are using a different way to analyze the numbers than he did. You guys are coming to different conclusions because you're using different ways to analyze the numbers. You're using dollars and cents. He's looking at incidents. That's it. And I'm not saying that one is right or one is wrong.
Well, I guess, Bill, the obsidian blade you're working on to make your point was far sharper than anything that was ever used on my eyes. But, I'm saying about damage, broken pieces, violence, everything else. Okay, take away the $1 billion that I mentioned on that. A lot of things got broken during that time period. A lot of times things got broken over a lot of these issues, and I don't see that much coming out of the right side. My biggest thing is I condemn what happened. What happened to Charlie Kirk was absolutely atrocious. I look for the gentleman to get a legal trial and then to go through a firing squad and go from there. But that's me. I'm an easy person to work with. All I want to say is that we need to sit there and find common ground. I agree, but Donald Trump has to sit there and find on any side of the political aisle. If there are ruffians who are sitting there saying that they want to sit there and do change, well, you can talk all you want. Actions will speak far louder than any words in this situation. And so far, hearing people sit there and say about Charlie Kirk that he was a cancer cell and that we needed to kill him to get rid of other cancer cells, doesn't show well that part of society is willing to sit there and listen.
Dwayne, great comments. That's from Dwayne from Divide. His line will be open 303-696-1971. Text message line 720-819-5115. This has been one of the spiciest conversations, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's talk Guy Rees real quick. Guy Rees has been a fantastic addition to the Hunt family. We went out and visited with them. I'd never been in a Guy Rees. Didn't even know what they did. My wife wanted to go. We sat down, talked with them, and you get personalized design consultation on window shades, blinds, shutters, paint, home decor, all that stuff. So me, I don't know what happened. I mean, there could be a whole addition put onto my house. I'd barely pay attention. No, I'm just a guy, right? So my wife, though, attention to detail. She's got questions. She gets to ask all that stuff, walk through the design consultation process. Gentlemen, I will tell you this, as a husband, it was great to watch my wife enjoy the process, pick out the blinds that she really was excited about, get the right color, get the right little motorized things. It's amazing. She's so happy. Then they come out to your house, they bring the samples, you look at the light, make sure it all works, do the measurements. It all comes that way. Fantastic service coming from Guy Rees. We went to the one in Parker. They're all over Denver. Worked with Crystal, the professional designer. They come to your home to offer that personalized in-home consultation. You'll love it. Get the same expert advice I got. Do yourself a favor. Get started today by visiting GuyRees.com, GUIRYS.com, GUIRYS.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GuyRees.com. Go see the great people there. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, we'll continue. Phone lines hot. Text messages hot. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. By the way, if you're going to go grab some lunch today, go over to Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. I love this restaurant. My whole family does. 8 locations. There's sure to be one near you. It's Colorado's. They have these new menus out that are fantastic. If you go to their website, you can see it there. Go online to blackeyedpeacolorado.com to check out their featured menu. And when they run throughout, and they run them throughout the different seasons in Colorado, they have special barbecue menus, burger menus, potato menus, and more. They've built a reputation in Colorado for the best home-cooked meal away from home. They do catering as well. If it's a dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event, make it a success with Black Eyed Pea Catering. And no matter what the occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great for your special someone, birthday favors, or holiday presents. They have you covered. I love to have meetings at the Black Eyed Pea because it's maha. It's locally sourced. None of this processed baloney. It is good food, locally sourced. I know you'll love it. Support great people at the Black Eyed Pea.
The thing for me with Black Eyed Pea is it's that idea of home cooking. Yeah. It's that idea of, okay, now, you've been away for a while, maybe on vacation, or more importantly, you go off to college. And you're like, yeah, dorm room food sucks. And you get home, and that home cooking, it hits different.
Yep.
And that's what you get at Black Eyed Pea. It hits different than the rest of those other restaurants out there that don't do it the same way. So because of Black Eyed Pea, how they locally source everything, and the time that they take with crafting their recipes, they take inspiration from right here in Colorado. Yeah, it just hits differently.
Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go to Marty, Denver. Good morning, Marty. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Well, gentlemen, what happened to Charlie Kirk was disgusting, disgraceful, and unforgivable here in the flesh and on earth. So setting that horrific act aside, we're not buying the absolute bull sugar lie that the FBI and law enforcement is telling us. Set aside the gunman too, just the location in which that they tell us that the shooter did this. Very early on, gentlemen, I saw that bullet enter one side of the neck. It came out the other side of the neck. It created a water flow of blood coming out of the man's neck. The angle in which that Kash Patel and these folks are telling us it came from is not possible. You guys have by now seen, of course, all the bizarre hand signals and people behind him. We're not going to do the Thomas Crooks thing, the JFK thing, the 9/11 thing, the 2020 thing where government narrative, good enough for all of us, let's move on. When does MAGA and Christian conservatives sort of snap out of the fog and the despair and say, that's a lie, Kash Patel. Oh, and by the way, Jeff, and you should speak into this, I didn't realize Kash Patel was a Hindu person until the election in November. And for him to say something like he said, Charlie Kirk is not going to Valhalla. He's in heaven right now with the Lord. For him to say that, a Hindu demonic religion like that is so offensive. And then you saw Donald Trump sort of quickly move on to the ballroom construction.
Marty,
Guys, you buying any of
can I
this?
stop
Not
you there
gonna
for a
work.
sec? There's something interesting you said about that phrase that Kash Patel mentioned about Charlie Kirk. Something interesting, and this was from some of my law enforcement acquaintances and friends. They got a little twisted because that phrase that Kash Patel mentions is normally a goodbye for a fallen officer. Someone who has taken an oath and dies on duty. That's normally where that phrase is. And there were a number of people that, again, it's not representative of a large swath of law enforcement.
No,
it's not. But I'm just saying there were some hurt feelings from men and women that put on the badge that Kash Patel was equating Charlie's death with theirs. They just felt there were so many other ways. Again, they just felt there were other ways to express it. He didn't have to use a phrase. Again, you can disagree with it, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is what happened.
It sounds like Kash Patel was just saying a brother in the fight for this country died, and he made a statement about it.
But the brother in the fight was a diehard, end-of-the-earth Christian, and he used a demonic, mythical fake. So it's just incredibly insulting is all I'm trying to point out by this Hindu. We thought he was on our side, MAGA, FBI. Remember how excited everybody was? Find me a greater disappointment besides Pam Bondi than Kash Patel. And now to rub I mean, if I'm a Christian believing I'm going to heaven and the Hindu person says he'll see me in their demonic, mythical place, that's offensive because he was a Christian martyr. I mean, come on, Jeff. We have to peel back. And the fact that Donald Trump and the FBI, and they were also involved and now have done this. So let's go to the shooter, guys. So here we are with another lone, sort of retarded, maybe autistic, certainly deranged looking guy. Doesn't look anything like the AI photos. He's defending the honor of his transvestite partner, and that led to he unscrews and disassembles the rifle on the roof, gets down, goes in the woods, reassembles, leaves it. His dad pretends to be a good Christian and turn him in. Guys, I'm so sorry.
Marty,
we were lied to
Marty,
hardcore.
why reassemble the rifle in the woods?
Exactly. Why spend the time? You're making a getaway. You're planning on living, or else you would have blown your head off on that roof. Why would you do those things? Why would you do all those slow-moving, unnecessary things when you're on your getaway? So
aren't you assuming? I don't know about him taking down and taking apart the gun. I don't think we've seen that necessarily so far, nor him reassembling.
Well, what they reported it had to get reassembled in the woods, taken apart to get it in the backpack to get down the roof.
But we see something. But we see. Here's the thing, and this is why, Marty, I'm asking about this, is because the morning after, I made some comments about the video, and I'm looking at it saying, I don't see the firearm, and what is it? And so what it looks like is it seems to be, when my examination later on and other people talking to me, that it is the other object that he drops from the roof. And again, you don't normally want a firearm to drop from that height, because it can go off. However, if you're pointing the muzzle away from you and you're trying to get away from shooting someone, you may make the choice and you may take that risk. And so that's the idea, is it could have easily have been and I said that on that morning, that I am open to being wrong. And it looks like it was the second object that he's dropping from the roof. That's the rifle.
We've only got 20 seconds left. Can I ask this question? Marty,
please.
Who killed Charlie Kirk?
My fear is that it's pretty high up, folks. I'll leave you with this. I think Donald Trump knows a lot about what went on that day, and it sickens me to think, but he's not the same person that we saw come down the escalator. This needs to be fully investigated. This cannot accept the lone retarded gunman. Guys, God bless this era in America.
Thanks, Marty. That's interesting.
Marty.
I had seen that thing about Donald Trump had Charlie Kirk killed within 24 hours after the killing.
But that's classic.
Oh, yeah.
If Joe
I saw
Biden
it online,
was there,
but I'm like,
Joe Biden.
Again, I didn't think we were going to hear it on the show. I'm just shocked. That's all I'm
All
bringing
right.
up for. Wow.
Well, we're going to pivot.
Thanks, Marty.
In a different direction. We got John Stone Street coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.